this is your host, Julia Napini. I am a clinical and forensic social worker who owns a counseling practice and a consulting business. In this show, we discuss the challenges of being successful in business while maintaining your integrity and staying true to yourself. Join me while I interview other professionals and share insights from life and experience. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Compassionate Climb podcast. We are here for an episode learning about another professional's climb, and this is going to be a very interesting discussion for all of you. So I have Ronisa Clark here with me today, and we're going to talk about the financial side of business and the things that a lot of times go on behind the scenes that we don't necessarily always maintain awareness of. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So could you start off by introducing yourself to our audience,
Sure.
telling us a little bit about your background and what you do?
Yes. So my name is Ronisa Clark, and I'm an accountant. I have an MBA, and I've worked in community mental health agency. It'll be 10 years in June. I started my own bookkeeping practice in April of last year, and actually my year anniversary is tomorrow, so yay. And I am focused specifically with working with healthcare providers and clinicians. And how that started is I received a phone call from my aunt, and she is a medical physician in private practice. And so after having a conversation with her, it really lit a fire in me because I didn't realize how much what I, learned and worked with and my education and background was able to be helpful to her. This is someone that I look up to and, I just love and adore. And, when you think of, your family members, you're not thinking of things like as far as, needing the, everything's together. Right. And so after having a conversation, I was like, oh my gosh, I can help her. Oh, this is great. So be able to get in the background, that's just what I love. I absolutely love working with numbers, spreadsheets, all the things. And being able to talk with her, I was able to understand her position, her mindset in regards to how the business runs and how the financials flow. And I thought somebody else needs help. And she says, yes, I need your business cards. And I thought, oh, okay. Because for me, sometimes I just assume that when you're in private practice, when you walk into a clinic, you see everything's flowing, you see the front desk staff and, you see the doctor pay and then you walk out the door, right? Well, there's so many things that happen behind the scenes in order for that doctor's appointment or that therapy appointment to happen. So to be able to assist her with that really kind of opened the door, especially with trying to know that there are other people that are out there that need help. So with our conversation today, that's just what I'm looking to do to kind of break down those barriers and the walls and what an accountant or a bookkeeper can do to actually help you facilitate your business.
I am looking forward to getting there. So if we were to back up a little bit, what initially led you into the world of finance?
Oh man. Okay. So for that story, we have to go way back. Okay. So, I actually went to school to become a doctor. Okay. And so I have a degree, my bachelor's degree is actually in chemistry. And so my friend, my beautiful dear friend, she was taking a class. We both were taking classes together in community college. And she says, hey, I'm getting ready to take a bookkeeping course. So I needed a couple of extra credits. And I thought, okay, I'll take it with you. I just want to take a class with her. Right. And I did not know that when I walked into that classroom, like how much my heart just lit up. I'm sitting there just engorging all the information and debits and credits and, assets, liabilities and all the things that, made her green. And to this day, she still is like, I don't want to talk about accounting, right? But it did something for me. So I give her the credit to having to take that course because from there, I went on and as I finished my degree, I already had enough credits to go ahead and just have a bachelor's in chemistry. So I decided to switch my minor from biology to accounting. And then from there, I went on to get my master's in accounting. So that's how I got it.
It never ceases to amaze me when you kind of peel back the layers. Yeah. How many people do not necessarily always land in the place that they initially saw for themselves. Yes. And I'm so happy to hear you found something that lit you up and obviously that you have a lot of passion for skills. Yes. So working in community health,
Yes.
mental health, and then obviously starting your own business.
Yes.
Tell us about that juggling act and what it's been like for you in getting your business started.
Yeah.
Still in the early stages.
Yeah. So I actually became, I guess we'll say, an entrepreneur. Probably officially it was in 2017. So I am a lady of many different crafts, and so I did craft shows. So I would sew bags and do different things and that. And I officially had a business up and running in 2017. And then from there, I actually took a course on how to sell online. And so from there, I actually went through the program and learned, how to do a business online. And I thought, oh my gosh, but again, I'm working with physical products. So from there, I knew just from connecting and listening to podcasts and YouTube and things like that there was another side of actually having a business where you can actually work with people, not just necessarily locally and having like a brick and mortar, that you can actually have a business online. So of course, through COVID, a lot of people actually switched to online. And so at that time, I saw a lot of how-tos and reading and listening and going in different programs like that. And so I thought, I'm like, okay, well, what about bookkeeping? Now, mind you, that's my, main job. And I thought, well, this is, it's one thing to where you're working for someone, so you have a task. And then for being there for so long, you create your space, right? And so I knew my day-to-day, still know my day-to-day. And I thought, well, how do I translate that to help someone in a business? So after getting that phone call from my aunt, that's when it actually clicked to me. So I knew how to set up a business. That part was, very simple for me. But as far as being able to translate to the services that I can offer her, that was the part that I walked through and I said, okay, I can recreate this. I know how to get her started. I know the questions to ask. I know, what she needs, what she doesn't need. And then I can still offer that to her. So that way I'm coming in to be a support system so that she can continue to do her day to day. And I can just work in the background to continue to help and be there for her. So yeah, that's kind of how it translated. And I didn't realize that all the skills that I am learning as far as the eyes and ears, going through audits, all the things actually, it's like riding a bike. You're like, oh, okay, well, instead of having it for an agency, for over 400 people, this is for one. How do I bring this down to one person? And for me, it was as simple as, okay, well, we need to figure out bank accounts. We need to figure out, instead of like 5 bank accounts, we have one. Instead of, having a couple of accounting systems, we have one, or we need to get one set up. So for me, I didn't realize it would be, but initially, if you were to ask me beforehand, I would be like, oh, I have too many things. There's, it's too much. And because I would take it on a macro level, as opposed to saying we are working with one person, one business, a solopreneur. So I'm grateful and I'm just that type of person. And when she called, it was no problem. I didn't have the imposter or the hesitation. I said, she needs help. That's it. Boom. We're going to figure this out. And we did.
So you almost went about it in the reverse, where you took things from a larger scale and working within a bigger system, and you really just had to simplify it and customize for an individual client.
Yes.
And it sounds like once you had that, you could obviously recreate it.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about your experience in community mental health. So for those of us that have not necessarily been in that world, or even those of us that have and maybe don't have a full understanding because we don't have our own business of all those things that go on behind the scenes, what are some of the tasks that you are responsible for that keep everything running smoothly?
Sure. So, for example, when a client comes in and they may or may not be registered into the health record, we may get a request that someone may need to be housed because they're on the streets and they need a hotel stay. So we have it set up in our system that we create forms, and the form is filled out by a clinician. And then from there, after it goes through a few approvals, it comes to me to actually cut the check or to, pay with a credit card. So that's just a simple idea as far as, how to make sure that client is able to get off the street and to be able to have a warm place to stay. And so without having that initial request to come through, I won't necessarily know, what the need is without having a form. So if we were to break that down, it's still starts with the clinician connecting with the client, right? And so in order for that to happen, there has to be a way to notify me to say, hey, we need funds to go be directed in this area. Now, mind you, there is obviously a bigger aspect to that because there's certain monies that has to be allocated. We have to follow rules and regulations that come down from our state. There are different guidelines. We can't just, say, hey, we're going to, get the Hyatt today, right? There are different things that are constrained in there. But just to keep it, simplified, that's just the main gist of it, is that I make sure that any payments that are needed to pay the vendor so that the client can get what they need, that's part of my role.
So this is beyond a bookkeeping
Right.
role. You are really jumping in from a case management perspective, but the financial aspect
Correct.
of getting the client what it is that they need.
Correct.
So geographically, you had said you're located in Michigan.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that a lot of this has to do with the demographics specifically of the area that you're working. So you're finding homelessness to be a really significant issue.
It's just one of our programs. When you're working with a community mental health agency, we work with I guess I can't remember the specific terms, but it basically for those that receive Medicaid, right? So there is a diagnosis that falls within that criteria. We uniquely have the ability to help those that have mild to moderate cases that are able to come in and get services. But specifically for working with those with Medicaid, I guess is a good general way to explain that.
So how did some of these skills translate into what you're doing now in your own business? Now that you've customized it more for individuals, were there already systems in place that you found were helpful, or did you kind of start from square one again and find something that worked better for you?
Yeah, so for me, I started from square one, mainly because, the accounting system that I use is designed for a more robust type of business or entity. As far as the cost for that type of accounting software, solopreneurs are not going to be able to be like, oh yeah, here, let me drop $10,000 for accounting software. That's not going to be on their forefront, and that's going to, basically discourage them. So the one that I specifically use and recommend, and I mainly recommend that because I'm a QuickBooks Pro advisor, is QuickBooks. I prefer that. I love that it's a cloud-based software. But even then, as an accountant, I still need to make sure that I learn the system. How does it work? How does it flow? And it actually was not necessarily designed for accountants. To me, it was designed for the business owner. So to come in to kind of understand, how they're encouraging people to, input their transactions and put them in, that's where I had to, again, start from the bottom. So for all accountants, it's the same thing for all of us. We understand the gist of, how an accounting software should work. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we can just jump in and, learn the system right away. It still takes a little bit of nuances. We do have to understand the flow, how the money comes in, how the money goes out. And so that's what I did. I ended up doing getting certified just so that I can understand and use that. And I do prefer that for my clients.
So you talked about your niche of working with mental health medical providers. And so within that, what is your process? How do you tend to find the majority of the individuals that you work with? And then what's that process to get started with you? And what is the frequency of your interactions and more of the level of involvement that might differentiate you from someone who's just preparing someone's taxes or a financial advisor?
Sure. So, by being a QuickBooks Pro advisor, I have the marketing options are available. So if you type in QuickBooks in my area, my name will pop up, so you can reach me that way. Having websites, doing social media, different things like that, and of course word of mouth. So there are a couple of clients that reached out to me from the QuickBooks Pro Advisor, so I'll go that route. So they'll reach out, send an email, and say, "Hey, I am let's say a therapist, and I have a private practice. Do you help?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's set up a call." So I set up a discovery call where we sit down and I get to know your business. So I'll ask you questions such as, how long have you been in business? Do you have a business bank account? What structure are you using? Are you cash or accrual? Do you have an accounting system beforehand, or do you need help? Or if you do have a system, do you know the last time it's been reconciled? So there's a lot of different questions that I ask that actually actually will feed into my process, so that way I can let you know how it works. So if someone comes in brand new, then for what I would do is get them set up. So that would be a setup cost. So in that case, I could get you set up. And then from there, I can offer you to say, hey, would you like to have your accounts reconciled each month? Meaning that I will take all your transactions, match them up to your bank statements, and make sure that what is on the bank statement is in your accounting system. And then from there, I set up your chart of accounts to make sure that everything's allocated. However, I also will sit with you and say, hey, these are the accounts I created. Because for me, what I want is I don't want to be the accountant that's separate from your business. I want to be there to make sure that we are reaching your goals, right? Because I may have the knowledge on what, how to categorize an Amazon transaction. But if that's not in alignment with where you would like to go, then that's where we can have a conversation. And I'll say, hey, according to, the general accepted practices, this is what I'm recommending. However, where are you going? Where are you doing? Is this an affiliate charge? Different things like that. So from there, making sure that they understand they have a financial statement. Hey, let's look at your revenues today. Let's look at your expenses. What would you like to do? So there are many different aspects where I would love to have that connection with the business owner, because as they grow, I'm also seeing how they're going. I can see different ways to help them to say, hey, this expense seems to be a little bit too high. Make sure to take a look at this. Is this okay? Did somebody double charge you? Right? Because when you have, let's say, charges that come in that are automatically billed, it's very possible they could be double billed. But if you're not having the eyes in your account to know that it's been double billed, and having somebody like myself to come in and say, hey, I see 2 charges. Did you intend to do this? You can end up at the end of the year like, why is this so high? And I'm like, now I know. And then now you're fighting to get, 6 months of double charges that could have been caught right away. So that's just kind of a little bit as far as, making sure to, connect with them and just to know that there is some eyes. Because I do realize that it's stressful, right? You're getting in, and the main focus for a lot of private practitioners is that they're trying to get clients, right? So clients, and we got to get everything in. And the unfortunate part is that a lot of times the accounting or the financial transactions are on the back burner. And so having that mindset of putting on the back burner, you now have a stressed out therapist at tax time, because we have, to file our taxes. And you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And it's like, it is not as simple as throwing it into an Excel spreadsheet. And I'll just say this, from the top of the mountains, Excel is not an accounting system. So having someone to be able to be there for you, to be a support system that kind of gives you that, the behind the scenes someone that to know that somebody's watching it out for you is the way to help you to grow in your business.
So it sounds like a very high level of involvement from you. Are you working in conjunction with the person who's preparing their taxes as well?
Yes. So I actually have a client that has a separate CPA. So that CPA files their taxes and they're set up as an S corp. And so they work specifically with a tax preparer to make sure to have that. And what's wonderful about that is that the accountant of CPA logs into the QuickBooks and sees all the transactions. And so if they have any recommendations, they communicate with the business owner to say, hey, for example, please, create a journal entry to move, this amount to the, let's say, owner's draw. And I do that, and we're done. And so now I'm looking at a business owner that's able to flourish and, move through their business without having to worry about what's going on in the background. And tax time is piece of cake. Done. And they're moving on.
So once you get a new client set up and they're in that accounting software, what is the typical frequency that you are reviewing all of their books and reaching out to them for meetings?
Yep. So it will depend on the amount of the transactions. So in general, it's once a month. We go through the accounts to allocate it. And I think it's just unique to me to where I can see very quickly. Now, in the beginning, it may take a little bit longer because I'm getting to know your business, So it's, like, okay, this is what came in for this month. And then I'm watching to see patterns, and do you see different things that come in for the next month? And so after a while, it becomes like, riding a bike. You're just going through them and I'm like, okay, yep, this looks familiar. Boom, we're going. If they do have an additional requirement, let's say payroll, my advice, of course, is to set up a software such as like Gusto. And for one of my clients, they actually use that, and I love it. And the main reason why I love it is that it's kind of like having your own payroll person. But I work with their software, and I say, okay, well, once the payroll is paid, that comes in there, but they don't have to worry about, having to cut a check to make sure that their employees are paid, because they have it set up to be automated. So that's the other thing that I love too, is that there's just a lot of ways to eliminate time, to have more coaching time with the business owner, and not having to worry about the nitty gritty day to day, like, oh, we have to press this button and click this number and put that in there. And that's what I do. That's what I enjoy. I love the coaching aspect of it, to be able to communicate and talk with the clients, just to say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the analytics of your, your expenses versus the revenue, or, hey, you spend a lot for the advertising. What is your end goal? Let's take a look at this. Is it, and it's not to be over them, or to say, hey, I am, giving more advice than necessary. I just feel like that is part of my job as an accountant, and to have that eyes on it. And that's me. That doesn't necessarily mean that every bookkeeper will be there to do that, because I know that there are some that just want to, click the buttons and make sure that everything's pretty and clean, and it's necessary. But for me, if you're coming in, I want to be able to have that connection with you, to talk with you, to say, hey, where are we going? So that way I have the eyes on your business, so that you have me to use to make sure that you're, going in the direction that you had planned out and budgeted.
So with the goal of streamlining, and I know business ownership can be very overwhelming, and there's a lot to it. I know QuickBooks does have a payroll feature. Is that not something that you would recommend?
I'm not going to say I don't have experience with it. So, but the experience that I have with Gusto, I absolutely love. Now, I'm in different Facebook groups, and I'm quite sure everybody has an opinion on all the software. If QuickBooks is the one that works for you, go with that. For me, I reached out and worked with Gusto, and that's the one that I'm currently comfortable with. Doesn't mean that I won't be able to learn that for others, especially if others are in there. Just do not have the experience to really give a valid opinion.
So another question I have is about the size of the practice. So are you just working primarily with individuals who are in solo practice, or are you also open to working with people as they grow and expand?
Yep. So right now I am currently working with solopreneurs, but I am open to the group practice. And the main reason for the difference, let's say, like, as far as the services, there's just possibly more transactions, right? Dealing with payroll, right? Dealing with, I guess if we simplify it, that's kind of the two main things. Because at the end of the day, like, for a business, and even for my experience of working in the agency, we have lots and lots of transactions, but at the end of the day, the process, it's still the same, right? You have money that comes in, money that needs to be allocated, money that needs to be, put in nice little buckets and where they need to go. And we go from there. So if I do find that there's like a transaction amount, then of course that's what I would discuss with the business owner. I say, hey, this is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm estimating the amount of time it's going to take me to be able to assist you. And then we go from there. So yeah, so there really isn't a limit on what type of business, just because of my background, that it's just about the amount of transactions that come in.
What would you say are some of the most common mistakes that you're seeing business owners make in terms of accounting? One that you had mentioned, just relying on an Excel spreadsheet as opposed to an actual accounting software. Yes. What other things come to mind?
Yes. Basing their business decisions off of looking at what's in their bank account. And that bank account, I'll add another one to that, and that bank account is not a business bank account. That right there, to me, is just having the mindset of an employee, right? Because if you're operating and you're, going to Starbucks and you're like, oh, this is possibly a business. No. Like, you should have everything separated, And that's how you step foot into having a business mindset, right? I can't touch my business, the agency, and nobody can go in the agency. Hey, I'm going to Starbucks. No, you can't, right? Because that's the business account. And so if that's one thing that I could, strongly encourage everyone to do is to definitely make sure if you don't have it done today, please have it separated. Now, there are some that may be set up as a sole proprietor. That's fine. I still believe that you should have a separate bank account. So if you have a separate bank account, even a separate personal account, or if you have any issues, something to make sure that this is the business money, this is my personal money, and go from there. So there's a couple of things for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what about just in terms of like bigger picture stuff?
Mm-hmm.
So like as they get going, I guess what I'm thinking is, and this is not obviously to increase overwhelm.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more to make sure that we have the right people in place. Mm-hmm. I would assume that there are some people who feel maybe more confident in their ability to manage the books when they are a solopreneur. Mm-hmm. So what would be the benefits of working with someone, like you said, another set of eyes?
Yes.
So you are more likely to, I'm sure, pick up on things. Yes. And additionally, you come with this knowledge and this skill set and maybe some of the things that they wouldn't necessarily have at the forefront of their mind because that's not their background. Yes. Beyond that, what would you say are some of the biggest benefits of finding someone like you to actually be looking more at the books more in depth, and why should this be something that someone is seeking out to add to their kind of team of professionals?
Yes, awesome. So I don't think that, and I don't know if it's necessarily that they know to ask this, but for me, if you were to reach out to me and you said, I do not want monthly bookkeeping done, but can you teach me? The answer is yes. So if you want to just have someone that has an accounting eyes to be able to sit down with you and teach you, that's not a problem. And so if they're able to, look at, I guess our profession the same way that they would reach out to someone like yourself to say, hey, I want to learn how to start a private practice, just add that to their repertoire of things that they can do, especially if they're in the, looking to transition from, let's say, agency model to their own private practice. So looking for someone to just be able to teach you how to use an accounting system. If you don't want to use QuickBooks, that's fine. My advice would be if you really love Excel, if you really love to work with Excel, I still believe that you should reach out to someone. You can have someone at Fiverr to say, hey, can you create a accounting setup for me by using Excel, right? Fiverr is amazing. You can reach out to a lot of people who have a lot of different skill sets to be able to coordinate with you. And by doing that, you can have your bank statements downloaded into an Excel spreadsheet. So that way you still have a method of being able to keep track of your transactions so that you are, allocating them, and you still need to allocate them. You still have to do that. The other reason why I believe that you should have that is that if you are looking to grow, your time should be spent on the aspects of growing and working with your clients. If you are spending time, billing and fighting with the insurance agencies and trying to get paid, or you're trying to pay someone that you hired as a contractor, that time is going away, right? And if you're, say if you're being paid $200 an hour, well, now you are spending time on someone who could do that for you for $200 a month, right? So just to have and just to be able to think of those, aspects of your business to say, hey, this is what I'm actually doing. Can I save time? If I actually have someone that is specialized that is able to do it quicker so that you don't have to have the learning curve. Now, I will say this too. I do believe in having business owners know their business so that they know and understand, so that way they can vet someone. So I do understand that too, that there may be somebody that did work with a bookkeeper and the bookkeeper didn't do anything for the business, right? That happens. And so to me, you still need to understand what should be happening, and there should be different metrics that should be happening. There should be deadlines that are met, different things like that. And again, working with an accountant to kind of give you that insight to help you, even with creating like your standard operating procedures, to me is still invaluable, because once you have that in place, you can hire that in-house, if you get to a group practice level, or, wherever you're going. And I don't think this is always thought about, but what happens if you are looking to sell your business, right? You don't want to get down to the point of where someone is coming in and they're looking to buy your business and you're now like, oh no, like I don't have the, transaction order. Wait, how much did I make last year? Hold on one second. No, looking at your bank account, that does not get you set up. Now, there are people who do that, but it does get costly because when you're having a cleanup, putting things back in order, that's costly. So to be able to invest in that now is, again, it's still to me a mindset. You are working to become a business owner that's looking to grow in your practice. You want to be able to not just be a freelancer, not just be an employee and going into the same wheel and being stressed out and frustrated. You're looking to grow and to serve. And that's just one of the aspects as far as being a business owner, to learn how to allocate, different designations. So that way your time is spent on the most important aspects of your business and to make sure that you're in the wheelhouse of your genius.
I agree with a lot of those points. And you had referenced this, and I think it's really important to kind of circle back around to it because this is a focal point for this show in particular. Core values and integrity being one of the main ones for me personally. So you were speaking to how you can build that level of trust with those clients that you work with, and they may be coming in with negative experiences in the past with other members that they had in their team.
Yes.
I also know that it can be challenging to know who to go to, and it is an expense. And a lot of us can really be tied to that identity that is associated with the financial aspect of our lives. So what are some of the things that you do to really ensure that that foundation is built at the outset and to really set yourself apart from some of these other individuals? One of the things you talked about is like meeting deadlines and follow through. What else would you say?
Transparency. So I have no problem having it set up to where if the let's say the client is getting to know me, I will sit down and I'll open up their books and I will show them exactly what I did, what I do, what the transactions are, transactions happen, and how I process it to the point where it's a training in their own accounting system. And so that way, if they decide to say, you know what, thank you so much, Ronisa, I loved working with you. However, I now feel confident to take from here. There's no problem. And I leave that conversation happy because I showed them exactly what I've done and they can recreate that. And so it's not even about, and I think I can say that's for other accounts too. It's not about like hiding the process or hiding what we're doing and to make that a value. That's not the value. The value is being able to have that relationship with other business owners, because that's why we're also in business as well. We're here to, affect and help all the business owners in, whatever niches that the bookkeepers are looking in or accountants. And there's just something that we bring to the table, such as giving you that peace of mind, number one. And two, it is our passion to make sure that your financial transactions are organized. And why does that matter? You need to know, are you profitable? Are you making money? Are you making your goals? When you set out to leave and to create your business, are you making the six figures? Are you on track to making six figures? If you're not, let's look at some metrics, right? Let's look, do you need to, put in some advertising? Do you need to reduce your costs? Do you not need to have that office, right, that you rented? Maybe you don't need to have the office. Maybe you actually need to work from home or sublet from someone, to be able to look at that. And that's where we come in, because when you're too close to it sometimes for your business, you're not going to ask those questions to yourself, right? So again, if that is the level of care that they're looking for as far as like the coaching aspect, then that's the part that I would give. If they say to me, hey, I just want you to press the buttons and put them in order, that's not a problem. But knowing that they have that option, especially with working with myself, I definitely want to make sure that, coaching services is available with accountants as well.
Are you able to work with clients beyond Michigan?
Yes. I am. Yes. I am not a licensed CPA, so I'm not, tied to just one state for that. So being an accountant, that does give me some free reign to work with the different states.
So you are able to do bookkeeping. Do you also do taxes? Or
I do not.
Prepare taxes?
I do not. I know taxes, that is to me it's like a specialty. So I do not work on taxes. Doesn't mean that I'm not aware or that it's an easy, piece that can be picked up, but it's something I don't prefer. I prefer to make sure that everything is in order, and then to have you find somebody who's specialized to just work on the taxes. So when you're ready to file your taxes, your paperwork and everything is in order, you hand it over to the tax accountant, and then they're able to press the button for you and go to the IRS and go forth and pay that bill.
So if someone listening would like to work with you, what is the best way for them to get in touch and to learn more?
Yeah. So it's dreamjoyconsulting.com. or you can reach me on all the platforms. So I won't say all, but for the main ones like Instagram, Dream Joy Consulting, it's Facebook, Dream Joy Consulting. Send me a message, send me an email, dreamjoyconsulting@gmail.com. And my email is also on the website as well. And then, or just set up a free discovery call just to say hi.
Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate your time today.
Yes, thank you
for the work that you do.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to sharing this with everyone.
Yes, awesome.
For listening.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Take care.
Yes, take care.
If you like what you're hearing, please rate and review. This will help others find us and benefit as well. The Compassionate Climb podcast represents the opinions of Julia Napini and her guests. The information provided is intended for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice. If that is what you are seeking, please consult an attorney.